best way to control people is to make them believe that they're not being controlled at all, that what they say and do is of their own free will. This is exactly what the Islamic regime does in Persepolis by Marjan Satrapi. To accomplish this, the rulers in Persepolis create sexist double standards, or expectations for women that don't apply to men. These double standards are exceptionally effective because they're a method by which men use their power to dictate what is morally right and wrong and women's lives, allowing them to protect their actions while penalizing women for every infraction. Men in Persepolis claim to save women from rape by veiling them, while men are free to wear whatever they want. Men in Iran and men of today claim to protect women from sin by extolling the virtues of virginity and punishing those who don't conform, while at the same time bragging about how many partners they've had. As in Persepolis, our lives are still controlled by double standards. They dictate our lives from how we speak to what clothes we wear without a single word being spoken. Almost every school has some sort of dress code, and most of us probably don't think too much about it. But whether we realize it or not, our dress codes actually impact the way we think, because they become rules of society. It becomes the woman's burden to be conscientious of what she is wearing, and the punishment falls on her when she wears something that does not conform with the expectations of society. In Persepolis, women are forced to comply with a ridiculously strict dress code. They must wear the veil and be covered from head to toe. But what effect does the veil actually have when it's forced on people? It serves to empower a patriarchal society. Regime leaders told women that they must wear the veil to protect themselves from rape and sexual assault, while men are free to wear whatever they wanted without fear of persecution. The justification for imposing the veil is protecting females from rape. This teaches boys that that is the only protection, and that someone not wearing it or wearing it improperly is inviting rape. It sets up a victim-blaming society. If a woman is raped, they place the fault on the women who are assaulted instead of their attackers.
What did she expect to happen at 1 a.m. in the morning after sneaking out?
Another effect of this strict dress code is that it hypersexualizes women. Part of the regime's reasoning for forcing the veil was that women's hair emanates rays that excite men. It labels them as temptations that need to be covered up, prioritizing the men's ability to focus over women's freedom. As a result, this dehumanizes women, diminishing their value to nothing more than an object of temptation. Indeed, many school dress codes have similar effects, and girls' dress codes are significantly more regulated and enforced than boys', even though both boys and girls technically have the same dress code. And now to Miss Dutton for a brief explanation of Como dress code.
Is females for the midriff or cleavage, and then when the shorts are too short, or when stuff is absolutely see-through in the back. We're like, no, can't wear that.
Right. Awesome.
No, if I had my brothers, I would say everybody needs to have something that's not shape revealing.
Girls often get sent home because their clothes are a distraction for the boys, therefore inadvertently prioritizing the boys' education over the girls'. It's also teaching young children that clothes send sexual messages, which is a dangerous mindset, and it hypersexualizes young girls' bodies. To quote Miss Dutton, is it sexist? Probably. How are women allowed or expected to speak and express themselves? Girls and women battle double standards regarding speech daily. Throughout history, women's voices have been rarely heard. Women didn't get many opportunities to speak their minds when everything was decided for them, like if they went to school, who they married, how and when they served their husbands. Female voices remain relatively unheard for as long as women are subordinated. But even in our current society, where women are more free to say what they want, the way they talk is judged mercilessly, especially in schools and the workplace. Think back to all the times Margie spoke out in school or public. Was she ever praised for being outspoken, brave, or enlightening? No. In fact, almost every time she spoke out, she was punished for it. Often she was reprimanded by her female peers and teachers who saw her as being brash, crude, and unladylike. This demonstrates how these controlling social norms trickle down from the powers and are often implemented by women on women. And the effects of these internalized rules of speech are devastating. Margie is repeatedly kicked out of schools, thrown out of her living arrangements, scolded, and judged. No one, with the exception of her family and a few peers, really encouraged her to speak out because that was such an unusual thing for a woman to do. We can compare this to our society today when examining how it treats women who speak out or are in positions of power. While men in power who lead with a strong voice are commonly described as authoritative, good leaders who take charge, women are rarely given the same adjectives. Rather, according to Huffington Post, they're labeled as aggressive, bossy, and bitchy, all words with a negative connotation. Notice how in most movies with a female boss, she comes off as overbearing, unlikable, and cold. This forces women to walk a fine line between being an effective leader and being perceived as a despot. Not to mention, women who gain authority are always portrayed as having failed miserably in another significant part of their life, like family, love, self-care, or free time. You can either have a career or a perfect family, but never both. Whereas men are portrayed as having it all, loving family, successful career, and stable psyche. What do you think of when you think virgin? This or this? This or this? In both situations, it was most likely the woman. Virginity is perceived as something that's important only to a woman's reputation. Maybe this sacrosanctity originated from the fact that women had the most to lose from sex, or maybe it was because women were property to be controlled. This sentiment has carried into the modern world. Women are still punished while men are taught to pride themselves in promiscuity. The synonyms for female promiscuity are endless, just as they are for anything else that is important in the world, like death, sex, and money. The options are endless. Slut, whore, hoe, tramp, vamp, fallen women, women like you. All these words are used to shame women and ultimately control them through fear and intimidation. These words are used as the reasons for why a strong, independent woman like Margie's mom should be pushed up against a wall and fucked. It's evident that words like slut and whore aren't just used against women who are promiscuous, but also to degrade women who are strong, who own their actions, and who are independent. Once a woman has lost her virginity, she's perceived as worthless. In fact, in Iran it was a prerequisite before an execution for a virgin woman to be married in order to lose her virginity. Only then can she be executed. In Persepolis, a virgin is sold for 500 tumens. That's $5. If she hadn't been a virgin, she would have been worth $0. In the words of Martha Kemper, the Vice President of the Sexuality, Information, and Education Council of the U.S., by putting the emphasis there, on virginity, we're actually devaluing the rest of the woman, the rest of her, and the rest of her sexuality for the rest of her life. Women are expected to remain pure, but at the same time be sexual objects at service for the pleasure of men. According to an anonymous article, virgins have value as wives and girlfriends, but sluts have value as easy lays. And this is not a value that is merely imposed on women by men. Women internalize this idea, and it controls both themselves and others around them, whether it's feeling guilt for sleeping with more than one partner, or fearing the judgment from other women of owning your sex life. This double standard is best explained by author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
We teach girls that they cannot be sexual beings in the way that boys are.
Therefore, women cannot have sexual desires. They can only be the recipients of desire. This makes it easier to control women because they're perceived as having no voice in the matter of sex. The list of double standards for women goes on, and these confusing and unrealistic expectations for girls and women are used as a means of subconscious control. Marjan explains in Persepolis 2 that a person leaving her house while asking herself, "Are my trousers long enough? Is my veil in place? Are they going to whip me?" no longer asks herself, "Where is my freedom of thought? Where is my freedom of speech?" When we're afraid, we lose all sense of analysis and reflection. Our fear paralyzes us, and this enables the existence of double standards for women. Girls are ingrained with these expectations and conventions at such early ages and bound to them so tightly throughout their lives that the misogyny and sexism is so internalized that women contribute greatly to their own oppression. Women help enforce both formal and informal dress codes. Authority figures send girls home for wearing tank tops, and mothers shame daughters for wearing revealing outfits. Women slut-shame each other and bully each other for speaking their minds. So because we've internalized it so much, we remain under the control of the patriarchy with minimal effort on that side.